I bet a certain school across the state would gamble a few dollars to have a Buc-ee's, you know, down the street from them.
Roll Tide. Woo!
So I sure bet they would.
We like to give you a full spectrum of Auburn experience stuff here tonight, and this is going to be one of those out there things. But guess what? We get to talk about, at least for a second, Buc-ee's again. And I know so many of you are shocked out there that we would dare bring Buc-ee's up again on the show. But moreover, we are talking about this week on social media, other than the negative thing we talked about that's at the start of the show, Auburn creating a little bit of viral content themselves that spawned a little bit of fun stuff from other universities and even professional teams out there this week. I guess it was Recruit, Austin. Do I have that story right? It was Recruit?
Yeah. So I was going to give a little backstory. And peel the curtain back. This is my, how do I want to say it? This is my industry per se. My bread and butter is I love to graphic design, and I love to, especially around athletics. And so I've always paid a lot more attention to the creative side of college athletics more than probably anyone should. And so that one of those things I've noticed with the new staff at Auburn, since they've got here, is a big emphasis on this, and especially making these graphics that, you know, get sent to kids every day, all the time. A little more individual than normal. I've seen one where a kid, you know, he came on a visit and it sounded like he talked with the staff about his mom gives him a blue Gatorade, some goldfish, and all these other things every time before his track meet, every time before his football game, so-and-so. The next thing you know, the kid's posting a graphic about a picture from his visit with him and his mom, and in the background, they've got a checklist of all the things he mentioned. So just a little more like, you know, touch and feel and sentimental added to these things where these kids are like, hey, you know, that was really special. That's just not your run-of-the-mill, I'm going to change your name out in a graphic that I'm going to get sent. It's not like some graphic where you post the jersey hanging above the stadium or anything like that. So I think it's really cool that they're putting a little more emphasis into this. And it sounds like this one that we're going to talk about, the Buc-ee's one, they sent to a kid that's in Texas, where Buc-ee's is, you know, the biggest thing in the world. They said, you know, we're the only SEC school with a Buc-ee's. And I think a lot of people saw this and didn't understand that it was for an individual kid from Texas, that maybe he is a extreme Buc-ee's aficionado. But now, and everyone thinks Auburn is just, you know, bragging about their giant gas station, which they should anyway.
All right.
But,
hey, come on.
I mean, but it was for an individual kid. But like you were saying, this has sparked social media wars and social media, the best of the creatives out in social media from every school. I think it's hilarious.
See, this is the bet. This is when social media wins. Like, this is what should be. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying we can't ever talk about serious things on social media. We should. I mean, we should have a well-rounded conversation. But this is when I flip my phone on, find out what's this weird thing going on, and when I hear the backstory behind it, I smile and I just get further engaged in it, because this is just, it's good stuff. Auburn gets to show off their creativity with their staff. Again, I love that you brought that up. I continue to be amazed by whether it's graphic design, video guys. I just can't get enough of what the Auburn team's putting out right now and just having fun. And, you know, this is silly. This is just for a kid to use how he wants to as part of their recruiting process, but it still looks good. And the great thing is what, like you said, when people don't get, this is kind of just a gag for the most part, just for funds to use on a recruiting pitch. And then you get responses. And may I just go ahead? I think I've got it in the correct order. Let's see if I do. If I don't, we'll come back to it in a second.
Yeah.
Yes, right there. Lane Kiffin is like one of the first ones to respond. His team, his creative staff, with Chevron that sells chicken on a stick. They come out.
I love this.
It's amazing. Like, this is like the nuance of college sports that I love, and now what social media can do with this. But there you go.
Well, and I just would absolutely love to know the backstory of, did Lane Kiffin reach out to his creative team and say, this is what we should do. Let's do ours, but do, you know, that janky Chevron down the street that only sells, because, you know, they're in Mississippi. So truly is what is there. And so he's like, let's highlight our janky Chevron that sells chicken on a stick. Or was it the graphic design team who had the audacity to say, hey, I'm going to make this as a gag against Auburn. Should I send this to Coach Kiffin? And either way, I would love to know how that played out, because this effect, I feel like Auburn's was one thing. And then once a prominent Twitter account or head coach like Lane Kiffin went after Auburn using the same idea, that's what started the ripple effect. And it went crazy from here on out.
And listen, as much as we were frustrated with Coach Kiffin during this coaching process, with whether he was taking Auburn seriously or not as a job, and shenanigans even after that, we've talked about some previous episodes about stuff related to him. See, this is why I'm still glad Lane Kiffin's in the SEC, because of stuff like this. And he's not the only one that got involved. We'll give you some other examples here in a second. Again, credit goes to the creative teams for putting this out here. They're the ones that have made these graphics. We're just sharing them out, but courtesy to them, we're letting you see some of these. Here's another example from South Florida, I believe, is this one. I can't see
yeah.
Now, I've chosen a couple, Austin, because I want to point out some incorrect statements about a few of these, or at least almost incorrect. The only one with the Publix on campus, I think we have a claim to that one.
I'm not going to say that's on campus.
Now,
I'm not going to count ours as on campus.
Now, listen, there are some campus buildings. So what we're referencing here, most of you that know what we're talking about, but just for those that don't, the campus borders are really the big ones are College and Mag. And
Correct.
College Street, right there in front of Stanford Hall, technically across the street would not be campus, but there are some campus buildings over there. Which
there are.
And it's kind of connected to it. So if so facto, it's on campus.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I saw this one too, the South Florida one that says the only school with an on-campus Publix. And I started kind of reading the comments, because there were some people who it looks like they really do have a Publix on campus. And it was like, somebody might not have done their research on this one.
Yeah.
But you know, they use the Publix mascot, the little dinosaur. And that's, I think, what the biggest part about this is. It's not really how much of how crazy can your statement be, is how ridiculous can your graphic look. And on this Publix one, I see, for those that are just listening and not watching with us, I see a pub sub, a gallon of Publix lemonade, some cookies from the bakery, and as I mentioned, the Publix dinosaur mascot. That's pretty good.
That's pretty awesome. All right, another example here. This is, I just kind of grabbed this random one. How big is Memphis campus? Like, do they have the pyramid over in Memphis as part of the campus?
But this one doesn't say on campus, so I think they're looping it into the city, because I've never been here, but I've heard about this at Memphis. The only school with a Bass Pro Shop and a pyramid, which is, you know, that's a good one. I would be willing to bet, and I believe them, that they're the only one that has a Bass Pro Shop within a pyramid near their school.
Yeah, and this last one I think is one that we have a connection to. If I'm right, no, I missed on getting that one. But this is a major. So this is, you want to talk about Auburn like inspiring madness. You would think, okay, it's going to spread throughout the college level. This, folks, is the Seattle Mariners taking part in this. The only, what is it? I can't read the fine print, but the toasted grasshoppers with one of their players on top of it.
The only Major League Baseball team with toasted grasshoppers, which, you know, people were making fun of Auburn for saying, are you really proud of having Buc-ee's? Is that really what you're going with? Is your thing? Is toasted grasshoppers really what we're going with? Seattle is the thing that we're the only MLB team with? I don't know. That does not make me want to be like, oh yeah, I'm proud to be a Mariners fan.
So all because of these examples you just saw. One I failed to get, and I wanted to bring up because we could. I think it said it was on campus, so we could debate that a little bit. Georgia tried to say they had the only Little Italy.
Yeah, I got a problem with that one.
I got some issues with that one, because we'll be having Little Italy basically on campus. It's kind of the same Publix. I will be having that this weekend, most likely. Now, just because they put that, how much money do you think Little Italy is going to make this weekend, simply because they were mentioned on social media because of all this?
Oh, I think it'll be tons. And just because, you know, if I remember correctly, it's Little Italy, but if I remember correctly, last year it was talked about when Auburn was winning by like 20 in that game. They talked about where they're going to go eat afterward, and we had rain and delays, and Little Italy's going to be one of the only places open if we have some rain delays next weekend. So Little Italy is going to make some money, but that Georgia one, I don't. You might be right. It might have said the only school with a Little Italy on campus, but if it said the only SEC school with a Little Italy, that is incredibly incorrect. And the guy who posted that was like, "It says Little Italy's Pizzeria. That's not the same." No, it's the exact same thing. It's cheap beer, cheap pizza, and they're open. They never close. So those are exactly the same, my friend.
So there you go. Listen, Auburn creating magic. And when we talk about encompassing the Auburn experience on this show, this is the stuff sometimes we want to throw at you guys, because this is just so unique. And I love it when Auburn becomes a prominent thing in other people's worlds. And this time we were a trendsetter in a sense. So hats off to the creative team at Auburn. Hats off to everybody else who jumped on board on other college creative teams and coaches, I guess, if Lane was involved in this, for kind of making something that was a little bit fun this week. And obviously, as we've talked a lot about, a time where there's not a bunch to discuss right now, but really cool. And of course, we're going to celebrate having a Buc-ee's. Who wouldn't celebrate? If you're not celebrating having a Buc-ee's near you, what's wrong with you? I mean,
look, it says the only SEC school with one. So you best believe if anybody else had one, they'd be celebrating it, but they don't. So just take your grits and go home.
You know, I bet a certain school across the country, across the state, would gamble a few dollars to have a Buc-ee's, you know, down the street from them. So
I sure bet they would.
That's a fair bet, sir.